By the end of this video, you will know about what a verb is and about the present tense of a verb in the Greek New Testament. You will also have seen how to quickly learn the pattern the present tense verb follows, and I will also share some tips on how to make learning the present tense verb easier. Hi, Rob McIver here. Let's learn about present tense Greek verbs. Here is an outline of the video. Remember, you can skip over the parts that you know already or are familiar with. But I would say that you'd want to check out how I surprise a class with how easy it is to learn the present tense of luo. And you'll probably be interested in the tips that follow it as well. We begin by asking, what is a verb? In primary school, you were probably told a verb is an action word. And that's not a bad definition, because many verbs are indeed action words. But let's take the commonly occurring Greek verbs that we will meet later in the semester. Their English equivalents are hear, write, eat, find, have, want, take, say, and lose. And indeed, some of those are action words. Write, eat, take, say are all verbs of action. On the other hand, want expresses an intention or a desire. And there are some other kinds of verbs as well. In later videos, we will meet the verb to be and the verb to love. These express a state of being or a state of mind. So, a better definition might be that which is found in Webster's dictionary. A verb is a word expressing action, existence, or occurrence. And verbs can be used for a number of purposes. They can make statements, they can express intentions, and they can give commands. Well, that's all very well and good, but Robert, how do I recognize them in Greek? It's easier than you might expect, because Greek uses the ending on the words to signal what part of speech the word is. And in a vocabulary, when you learn a word that ends with omega, or omai, or me, you will know that it is a verb. The vocabulary lists the first person singular present indicative active, and all verbs will either end with omega, omai, or me. As you observe how verbs work in Greek, you'll have the extra bonus that you will figure out what a verb is, and you will understand verbs much better in English. That's one of the added things that you get when you study a second language. Now let's look at a paradigm of a verb in English. Well, what is a paradigm? A paradigm is just the pattern a verb follows, and we will be meeting many paradigms as we study Greek. Here is a paradigm of the present indicative active of the English words say, hear, eat, write, have. Now, just begin the first column. I say, you say, he, she, or it says. We say, you say, they say. Second column. I hear, you hear, he, she, or it hears. We hear, you hear, they hear. And so on. I eat, you eat, he eats. We eat, you eat, they eat. And the last column, I have, you have, but he has. Oh, that's an irregularity. Now, don't you find that interesting, that you knew that pattern in your head? You could just go down, I have, you have, he has. Oh, that's an irregularity, but you just knew it. And this is something you learnt as you learnt the language as a child if you're a native English speaker. And that's by far the best way to learn a language. However, we are learning Greek, most of us, as adults. And we don't want to spend 15 years learning it like we did as children growing up speaking English. One of the shortcuts we use is we notice the patterns, or in cases of the verb, the paradigms, and we learn the paradigms and then apply them to the language. All verbs have a tense, a mood, and a voice. We're going to be looking at the present indicative active of luo, which means we'll be looking at the forms of its present tense, indicative mood, and active voice. I have later videos on tense, mood, and voice, but for the moment, all we need to know is the present tense means the action takes place at the present time. That's a bit of a simplification, but it will do for now. The indicative mood is used for making statements of fact, and that in the active voice, the subject of the verb initiates the action. Now here is the paradigm of the present indicative active of luo. And the first thing I'm going to do is read it out. And as I read one of the entries, I'm going to leave a gap which will enable you to repeat the word after me. Luo, luice, luai, luomen, lueti, luusin. I probably overemphasize the endings, but that's the thing that changes over the various meanings, isn't it? It means I lose, you lose, or he, she, or it loses, we lose, you lose, they lose. Unlike in English, where we have a separate pronoun for I, you, we, and they, Greek implies the pronoun in the endings attached to the verb. So, luice is always going to be you are. And in fact, here where Greek conveys more information than English. So luice is always going to be one you, and lueti is going to be several. Now, before you can understand what's going on with the present indicative active in Greek, you need two other bits of information. You need some vocabulary, and you need to know how this paradigm that you've just looked at shows you how to form the present indicative active of other verbs. As far as vocabulary goes, might I suggest the following 10 Greek verbs. I have put the number of times they occur in the New Testament in brackets next to them. My basic criteria for including a word in a vocabulary list in my book, Beginning New Testament Greek Made Easier, is that a word should occur at least 50 times in the Greek New Testament. As you can see, this is true of all of these verbs except for luo, which I've included because it's the pattern verb that we use. And in fact, luo is part of apoluo, as you will see. Apo plus luo. Now, I'm going to read out the Greek verb and leave a small gap so that you can repeat it back. Akuo, apoluo, grapho, estheo, heurisco, echo, thello, lambano, lego, luo. And the closest English meaning is listed in the right-hand column. So akuo means I hear or I listen. Sometimes there is more than one meaning, like in apoluo, I release, I dismiss, I divorce. And at other times, a Greek word can correspond quite closely to an English word, such as grapho, I write, estheo, I eat. I've got some tips later on about how to learn vocabulary. The third thing we need to know before we know about present indicative actives in the Greek New Testament is how to use the paradigm of luo to work out how other verbs form the present indicative active. We have luo in the left-hand column and lego in the right-hand column. We just learnt that lego means I say. And taking the column which has luo, you will see that lu is the same all the way down. Only the endings change, the o, ice, I, etc. So the bit that doesn't change is called the verb stem, or if we're being more accurate in this case, the present verb stem, because sometimes there's an aorist verb stem that is different to the present verb stem. Yeah, that's a complication we can leave till later. All right, so we have lu plus omega, lu plus ice. So let's do the same thing with lego. The present stem of lego is leg, leg o, leg ice, leg I. And so the endings of luo and lego are exactly the same. And if we've learnt the endings on luo as luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luusen, we will know the endings of lego, won't we? Now, you've heard me chant off luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luusen, and that's the first challenge before us, isn't it? To learn that paradigm. We're going to have some fun now, and I'm going to show you how my class was surprised how easy it was to learn Greek. They had come to class hearing rumours that Greek is a challenging subject. Well, if you get behind, it can be, but if you're on top of it, it's not too bad. So let's look at it together. Welcome in Video Land. You are joining a class of on-campus students and also distance students. And we're going to do a little exercise which you're encouraged to join in. All right, so here we go. I am going to say this. This is the paradigm, the pattern of the present indicative active of luo. I'm going to say it, and you are going to repeat it back to me. So, luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luusin. All right, so I'm going to ask you to trust me. Can you stand up, please, in your seats? Normally I get the class to do this, but on Zoom, can you stand up, please? And if you're watching this video, hey, trust me, stand up. All right, we're going to say this together, and then we're going to speed up a little bit, and then I'm going to get you to close your eyes. All right, now the trick is to move your body as you do it. That's why you're going to stand up. So you start marching, and at the beginning, it's very slow. So together, luo, luais, luai. Come on, together. Luo, luais, luai. Luomen, lueti, luusen. Oh, you need to try that bit again. Starting again. This is live, see? Luo, luais, luai. Everybody. Luo, luais, luai. I will say the last one. Luomen, lueti, luusi. Luomen, lueti, luusen. From the top. Luo, luais, luai. Luomen, lueti, luusi. Luo, luais, luai. Luomen, lueti, luusen. Faster. Luo, luais, luai. Luomen, lueti, luusen. Luo, luais, luai. Luomen, lueti, luusen. Close your eyes. Luo, luais, luai. Luomen, lueti, luusen. Hey, you can't see the people here or on the screen, but they are amazed. They have learned their first paradigm. Sit down. Okay. Now, how long does it take you to say luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luusen? Not long at all. Can you say it walking from here to the car park or from here to the dormitory? Sure you can. You could probably say it 100 times. So, here's how to make learning Greek easier. You keep repeating it. Luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luusen. As you're walking down the road. Luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luusen. I was learning Greek to do some exams for my London BD. At the time I was teaching mathematics, and it's kind of a funny story, so I'll spend the time on it. I had a little motorbike, needed to fit in the back of a very small car that we had. So it's a motorbike, and I had to really crouch to drive it. And I remember driving from home to my work, which was teaching mathematics in Christchurch, New Zealand, singing out at the top of my voice to the traffic, luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luusen. I won't tell you the rest because you don't know it yet, but I went through the whole paradigm and all the nouns as well between home and work. And did I find it difficult to remember? No. Now there's something else that you need to just pop on top of that. What you need to do is at the beginning of each time you sit down to study Greek, you just write it out. Language is something heard. So that's saying it out loud. But writing it down means you've got the exact letters in mind. It gives you precision. So if you're looking to make studying the Greek verb easier, you chant the paradigm. And you walk. As you're walking, do something with your body. If you're sitting in front of a chair, just looking at it, you can look at it for half an hour, you will never learn it. But if you say it as you walk around and as you write it down, it's there in your head. I always enjoy how surprised the class are that learning Greek can be so easy. I mean, in 5 minutes, they learnt luai, luais, luai, luam, and luiti, lusen. How hard is that? You will have also noticed that I try and share some tips on how to make learning it easier. And I have here a set of tips for you about how you might find learning the present indicative active easier. The first tip is that memorizing is much easier than just relying on the textbook. Now, this is kind of surprising because memorizing seems a little hard and you will naturally not want to do it. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. But over time, you will find memorization is the fastest way to deal with your Greek exercises, and it's the only way, really, to be able to read the Greek New Testament. Now, to help you memorize paradigms, I suggest that you follow the example that we model in the class. We begin every class day with what I call stamp and shout. So we start walking in rhythm and then chanting off. Luo, luais, luai, luomen, lueti, luset. And you can say that many times over a very short pace of time as you're walking around. You don't have to be sitting at your desk to do this. So that's the first thing to do, is to memorize the paradigm. And to follow that up, when you sit down to study Greek, the first thing you should do is write it out from memory. Luai, luais, luai, luam, and luiti. And just writing it out will help you remember. It only takes, 30 seconds? And if you do it each day, and as you build on it with the other tenses and moods, you will form a very clear memory of how the paradigm works. The next tip is that you need to learn the vocabularies well. Now, I'm going to eventually record a whole video on how to learn vocabulary. Let me give you some highlights. First of all, only try and do vocabulary for a maximum of 10 minutes. I tell my students they need to study Greek an hour a day, but that hour should be made up of 10-minute blocks, some in the morning, some around lunch, some in the afternoon, some in the evening, concentrating them in the part of the day that you learn best. Then you need to rehearse your vocabulary regularly. What you know today, you should remember tomorrow, but may not remember next week. So every day or so, you need to go through your vocabulary. And to help you do that, you can either use vocabulary cards or an electronic help such as that found in Quizlet.com. And if you're looking for the particular vocabulary that we have just covered in the video, you can search Quizlet.com for Avondale Greek. Now, I must celebrate the fact that it is my students that have set up these lists, and you probably will want to check whether they've got it exactly right. And in fact, that checking is part of the learning process. It will help establish these words more clearly in your mind. And the final tip I will give you is you need to practice. The Greek text you're using in your own class will have exercises. And I also have exercises in my book, Beginning New Testament Greek Made Easier. And as you work through these exercises, in my book you will find answers to the odd-numbered questions in the back. It will give you practice at using the verbs and practice at working out which person it is. Is it I, you, he, she, or it, they, etc. This video is part of a series of videos on the Greek of the New Testament. You can most easily find these videos by subscribing to my YouTube channel, NT Greek Made Easier, or by following me on x.com at Rob McIver 2024. And hey, if you found this video helpful, why not let me know by clicking on the like button below or by clicking on the heart icon. Thank you.